Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Invitation to a Conversation, celebrating Black History Month. And this week, I am honoring myself and everyone else in introducing you to Miss Theresa Adams, who has a legacy of a lifetime of achievements of sportsmanship at Glenn Academy. Good morning, Miss Adams. How you doing?
I'm doing fine, thank you.
Well, thank you for accepting my invitation to a conversation. I'm Pamela Bailey.
You're quite welcome.
You have a very extensive career at Glenn Academy, and you yourself started out as an athlete, and I'm proud to spotlight you this month as my Black History moment. Are you, first of all, are you a native of Brunswick, Georgia?
Actually, I'm not a native of Brunswick, Georgia. I was born in New York, in Harlem Hospital, but I've been here since I've been 6 years old, so I consider myself as just about a native.
And your maiden name is Powell. Are you related to Adam Clayton Powell of Harlem, New York?
Well, really, not as I know of. I know of him, and I know a lot of things that he's done, and I would be very proud to be related to him. But I am not. As you know, he was our first African American to be a congressman, and he was the first African American to be reelected. And he has done many things for the Democratic Party.
Glad to know that. We always have Black history added on Black history. What was your career choice growing up? What did you think about doing when you were younger for your career?
I actually wanted to be a telephone operator because I love talking to people. But
Okay.
what happened is we visited the telephone company, which back then we had operators that would have to carry the calls through. And after we visited the telephone company, I decided that wasn't for me because you couldn't talk back to the people no matter what they said to you.
I like your spirit. When did you decide and why did you want to be an athlete? When did you decide and why?
When I was around about fourth grade, I always used to love to play sports outside. And as you know, kids don't go out and play as much as they used to. But we used to play outside all the time and different sports and things. And I began to like the different sports. And that's when I decided.
Who are your favorite athletes, past and present?
Well, I like them all now, just about, because I can watch all the different sports. But one of my favorite was always for basketball was Cheryl Swoops because
Mm.
she was a hard worker and she just would to win title after title. And I also in track I love Hussein Bolt because he was a challenger and he was always determined no one was going to beat him unless they really did.
And why did you choose, out of all the sports, basketball, track, and softball?
For one thing, they were the most least expensive sports.
Okay.
And then that you when you went out to play, because you went out to play almost every day, it would be free to play in the park basketball. You always challenge somebody in the streets for running who was the fastest, and then you'd play different games. And in softball, you just like throwing things, so I always did that. So all of these things were important to me.
And you played all three sports in high school and college. Can you tell me how that went? And how did you stay focused?
Well, I actually I didn't do track in college, even though basketball felt like track some days. But do- doing basketball was very, it was very good. It wasn't that hard to do. You knew you had to go to practice, and you knew you had to study, so you just manage your time frame. And softball was the same thing. You always managed time when you were in college.
Okay. Um, you were the fastest girl in the county and in the region all 4 years in high school. I'm gonna give you some applause throughout this conversation here because I don't think you got your just accolades for what you have done. Um, what was that like being the fastest person all 4 years in high school, and who was your hardest competitors?
Well, you always wanted to beat. I've always wanted to be first in whatever I do. I remember even in my academics, I made 105, but a young lady made 106, and I cried about that. And it was A was an A, but I've always wanted to be, first at anything I do, or the best at anything I did, and so therefore, um, I just worked at it hard to do that.
Mhm. Can you remember one female that you knew you had to compete against to be the first in each in when you played these sports?
Well, we had on our team. It was actually two. One was Rosalind Bacon, who was 2 grades ahead of me, and one was a grade behind me, and they were fast. But I'd always say to myself, now we almost tie on the 50 meters, but on the 100, that was a little further. So I had to beat them on the 100 and the 200 and so forth.
Hmm.
And those are two that I'd always try to beat.
And you taught physical education in middle school. How long did you do that?
1 year was
What?
enough for me.
When did you realize you wanted to go from teaching to coaching?
Well, when you're in sports, that's one of the first things you wanted to do because back then they didn't have women going into playing basketball or coaching, predominantly black women in a lot of these schools. So you I wanted to coach. I could say ever since I was in high school.
Okay, that was your goal to coach in high school, but you knew that you couldn't just go there from teaching the classroom and going into that. So was teaching the classroom got not challenging enough for you? You had to go out there and get to that coaching spot.
Let me tell you something how I got into coaching. I knew I would have to wait my time. I actually coached in the recreation department first. But when I was coaching at the middle school in Darien in McIntosh County, um, my former coaches, which were at that time assistant principals and the assistant superintendent in Glenn County, came over in the spring and asked me would I come to Glenn Academy to be the girls basketball coach because they were going to start girls basketball. And so I highly could not turn them down. First of all, they were my mentors when I was in high school, but I also knew that was an opportunity for me to get into coaching.
Hmm. So how was that transition from going from teaching to coaching?
It was not very hard. You knew that your first job was teaching, and then you knew that you wanted to do the best that you could for the kids that you work with in basketball. So you would teach during the day, and after school, you would transition by working with a smaller group of girls, teaching them the sport that you knew, and you love working with them in basketball.
Okay. And here is your legacy list of coaching for 36 years. In basketball, you started the girls basketball team in 1977. The Lady Terrors won 637 varsity games, 8 region championships, and 19 sub region championships. In track, You won 11 regions, numerous runner-up honors, and sent competitors to the state meet every year. So they just knew as long as you were coaching something that they had to compete against you sooner or later. So they knew you were coming. In cross country, you captured 24 region championships, 5 runner-up, and you briefly coached boys cross country for 4 years and won 2 championships and 2 runner-up from that. And from there, while you were doing all that, you were cheerleading, teaching cheerleading for 25 years. And the last is mentoring, faith, family, and values. Let me applaud you for an outstanding accolades. Yes. So, when did you have time to do cheerleading while you were coaching these sports?
Well, I always have a plan. And when I was doing cheerleading, the young ladies, they practiced the same time that we were doing basketball. And therefore, I could look after both of them at the same time. The, but the most thing that I said about the cheerleaders, they were always so disciplined. So I would always pick good captains and co captains that would run things as smoothly as possible.
Mm. And and briefly, the boys cross country. Why did you just coach them briefly?
Well, back in the day, you only coach one set, and then they began to let you do both. I always could have coached both because one cross country is one of those sports that it's running. They all could have ran together at any time, you know. But they just had started letting you coach both. So I wanted to coach both because I know that I can do what I do for the girls, the same thing I could do for the boys. And to be truthful, the men coaches were helping me to get good boys on the team and so forth. And it just worked together. We worked together at Glen Academy as a whole. And that's what made the program always so successful for me during my time.
And let's get into the mentoring part of your career. Why did you choose faith, family, and values as your main discipline or for your mentoring group?
Well, one of mentoring young people, that's what they need. They need some structure and guidance. And if we don't give it to them, then the television will, and
Hmm.
other aspects will give it to them. So I always said, if growing up, I had mentors, and that's who led me into the direction that I needed to go. God was first, and then I knew He wanted me to take that plan and give it to some other young people. And that's why I chose mentoring first. My faith is first, then it's my family, and then it's mentoring, which always my children said I would have a house full of kids. And that's one of the reasons I had a house full of kids because I know I was ordained to help other kids.
Mm. And your values.
Well, my values are, my mother always said, whatever you do it to the best of your ability.
Hmm.
Never quit anything you start,
Hmm.
finish it. Now, you don't want to do it after that, that's fine. But always finish what you start and
Hmm.
stay strong at it because you're going to have your ups and downs, but it all going to come around in a circle and it's going to turn out just fine.
Hmm. Good advice. And these are the list of awards: Coach of the Year for the state of Georgia, Woman of the Year for Glenn County Girls Basketball, Track Coach of the United States, runner up, won many civil and church awards, and the 2012 Glenn Academy Sports Hall of Fame. I tell you, Miss Adams, wonderful, 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 excellent, excellent. Let me ask you this: which award do you favor the most?
Yeah. Oh boy. Now to be truthful, I enjoyed all of them, but the award that I would probably say I favored the most was at that time Coach of the Year for the state of Georgia.
That's right. That's right. That's right. That's right.
I,
Until that day, are you the only female coach in the state of Georgia who has that accolade? Do you
well,
know?
no, I think now it's about two or three that has had it. And you go before the Congress and the House of Representatives of Georgia, and they present it to you.
Oh wow. Okay.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Who was one of your hardest team coaches you competed against?
Truly, it was Beach High School and Statesboro High School. Now, I must say that my crosstown rival, Brunswick High, during my time, we always wanted to beat them, but I always wanted to beat Beach and Statesboro because those were the ones that determined whether you went to state or not.
Okay. Learn something new every day. Okay. Okay. The difference or the same? What's the difference or the same to coaching and playing in middle school and high school?
Well, really, middle school, they're not well developed yet. They'll do whatever you tell them to do and they'll try their hardest, but they don't retain things like high school students do. And their minds is not quite developed for what you want them to do, but you just have to keep working fundamentally with them. High school, they'll do what you tell them to do and they understand better what you want them to do.
Hmm.
Now they may not always do it, but they understand it.
Yes, yes, yes. And there comes consequences with that. Has the way you focus or prepare to play a game changed over the years while you were coaching?
I say it has. It has changed tremendously. I think the problem now is that you the kids multitask so much and they have so many things on their minds, and now when I coached, your mind had to be directly on the coaches, on the game that you're playing, and you had to be ready when the coaches call you to do something if we wanted to change a plan. Now young people, they listen to their parents in the stands and they're trying to hear the coaches, and all kind of things are going on around them, so it's changed a lot.
So they're more being distracted
Yeah.
opposed to being focused to what they need to do by the
the,
coaches.
the focus is off now. Yes, you're right.
Hmm. What's your thoughts about the mentality or the way the games are played now?
Well, I think one of the things is, I think boxing out in basketball is a lost art now. Kids did just stand there and they think they're really boxing out, but boxing out is you have to put a body on a person and then jump for your balls. They actually think that they can out jump one another, and that's how they're going to get it. And that's why a lot of times they don't get the ball. And so I think that most of the kids now uh, look at television and other things, and they try to do what they see those professionals do or some advanced college students do that has practiced that for a lifetime, and
Mm-hmm.
they're just not ready for those kind of things yet, but they'll try them.
Yeah, and yes. They have to learn to put in the work too to get that
Put
done.
in your word.
Hmm. What are the things you would change, eliminate, or keep playing in those three sports?
Well, when I coach, I always send a letter home to let the parents know that I'm coaching their children and leave them in my hands instead of them all trying to. I would change the coaching from the stands, and I would change the way kids act on the court and actually off the court. And I would change um, how they dress now.
Mm,
Used to we dress unity. Everybody had the same thing on, same shoes, same outfit, everything. Now they come all kinds of ways, and their
mm,
mind goes all kinds of ways. I
mm-hmm.
think the more unity you have, the better off you would be.
What would you eliminate?
Um, I might would eliminate kids talking during the game among themselves when they should be listening to the coach.
Mm, okay. And other than that, most of the things you would like it to stay the way it is.
Yes, I would like them to stay the way it is.
How did you stay focused, balancing the many positions you held, and became great at it?
One thing a person should know is that you take one task at a time. When I was coaching cross country, my mind wasn't on basketball. My mind was on cross country, and I wanted to make the kids in cross country know I was strictly for them at that given time. When I moved on to the next sport, which would be basketball, then I would not be trying to worry about what was going to happen in cross country the next year or whatever I was going to do in track. I would spend all my time dedicated to the ones in basketball. And that would go on for the same thing for track. I would keep my mind focused on track because now a lot of kids are they say in basketball, well, when things don't go their way, they say, well, I got basketball or I've got track or I got next year or something of that nature. No, focus on what you're doing there. You're going to have your ups and downs, but stick with it. Stay strong to the finish. Work hard at what you're doing at that given time. You may
Mm-hmm.
not even play the next sport or get
Mm-hmm.
to the next sport.
And how did you keep the girls focused with peer pressure, academics, and being a teenager over 3 decades?
Well, one of the things is that I always gave them a partner. I tried to give an older girl, a younger girl to be a partner and to
Mm,
have, someone that they could go to for peer pressure. And I tried to have a meeting at least once a week. We have a meeting of anything you want to talk about or whatever. And I gave them all free access to come to my office and talk to me individual if they didn't want to talk among the group.
mm-hmm. Have you coached generations of girls in one family?
Yes, I have some generational families. And what was good about that is I always just say I'm going to tell your mother because believe it or not, the older ladies would thought I was much harder on them than I was on their children or on the younger generation. So all I had to say is I'm going to have a talk with your mom, and they get it together.
Okay. Did your so this is one has your coaching techniques changed over the decades while you were coaching? The way you coached before to now?
Oh yes, yes. This generation wears their feelings on their shoulders. So
Mm-hmm.
the things that you could have told the ones in the past, you
Mm-hmm.
have to be careful how you talk to these because somehow these kids now generation think you're offending them. You're not concerned about them. They don't realize that if I didn't really want you on the team, you wouldn't be on the team. I'm just trying to help you get better, pull the best out of you. And no two people are alike. So you have to talk with different ones, different ways.
Mm-hmm. They can't take constructive criticism.
Constructive criticism. It's really hard for this whole generation to take that in the classroom, outside the classroom, in the sports. You know, uh, Parents don't seem to be getting that over to their children because that's where it comes from at first. It has to
Mm,
start at home that they can learn that everything is not going to go their way.
And you're going to have obstacles, whatever you do, you're going to have obstacles. Your retirement. When did you decide that you wanted to retire? I mean, 36 years. Come on now. When did you decide that it was time for you to retire?
Actually, I had first thought about taking a break. I thought about taking a break. Then I
Okay.
thought about it and I just said, no, if I take a break, I know that's going to be it. So I might as well, and that was about 2 years before I actually retired. Uh, I was going to retire the year before I retired, but my grandson uh, was a senior. And I didn't want to take away his accolades and so forth, because that was his big yang, how seniors are and so forth. So I said, well, I'll wait till the next year and retire, so, but I thought about it for about 2 years before I did it.
Okay. And let me read your retirement. You retired on December the 3rd, 2022, honored nowhere else but at Glenn Academy. And the gym floor will be forever known as the Coach Theresa Adams Court. So, were you truly surprised about this honor for your retirement, or did you know about it?
Well, first of all, some folk may not know, but the Glen Academy gym, they asked me what should we name the Glen Academy gym back in 1985 or 86. And I was so elated about so many glass windows in our gym till I told them the first thing I would think you would do is let's name it the Glass Palace because
Mm,
that's how it was. So when some of the young ladies came up to me and they asked did I want them to go back and name the gym after me, I said no because I love that name, the Glass Palace, because this glass all the way around, and we that glass just would make those girls just work harder and harder and win, and they were so proud of the gym and so forth and so on. So they said, well, maybe we could do something else. And so I said, okay, whatever else, but that was what the gym was named. I actually named that gym. Um, but they said, when they said that the name in the gym floor, well, a lot of good people in college and some of my other high school coaching co-workers and so forth have gym floors named after them. So I was really excited about that. That's special to an athletic coach and a basketball coach.
okay, so I won't even discuss when we heard about the floor coming across. Okay. All right. When you reflect on your years of teaching, coaching, and mentoring, do you wow yourself and smile?
Well, I know that God has a plan for all of us.
Yes.
I must say this, as I grew up, I would never have imagined this would have been my plan
Mm-hmm.
because I actually started out working in a restaurant, Shoney's restaurant. Then I moved from Shoney's restaurant to Alabama as a parapro. But I
Mm-hmm.
did know this after 1 year of parapro, because I was a good parapro.
Mm-hmm.
They used to I would do PE paraproing, and they would bring the kids and leave them with me. But I knew that wasn't for me.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't mind the work, but doing the work, I was doing the work and not getting paid. So
Okay.
therefore, I knew I had to get back in school and finish what I started and
Mm-hmm.
move forward. And I just was so, as the years went along, I was so elated what God's plan was for me. And I knew that I would do the best that I could be to represent Him and my family.
Mm. And your words of wisdom, your personal words of wisdom is be real, work hard, stay strong to the finish. When you think of those words, what are your thoughts about them going forward? And how you kept with all those three sports and those girls as winners?
First of all, you got to know everybody's different, so you have to treat different ways. You have to recognize how you have to treat each individual. You got to be real to young people, girls and guys, mainly because they can see straight through you if you're not. Secondly, um, you got to work hard at what you want. Nothing is given to you on a silver platter. If it is, it's not real and it will soon crumble.
Mm,
And you must, no matter what, you're going to have your ups and downs in life. That life is not made for any perfect situation. It's going to be ups, it's going to be down, but you got to hang in there with it. And if you don't stay strong to the finish, you won't get the best result at the end.
mm, mm. Very good. Yes, yes. Giving back. After you retired, you are now coaching girls basketball at St. Simon's Christian Middle School. Now, is that your hobby for retiring?
Actually, that is my hobby. A former coach with me is the athletic director, Dan Moore, over there. Him and I coached about 25 years together. And he called me one day and he said, Miss Adams, would you come and help coach the girls basketball? Help me coach over here at St. Simon Christian Middle School. And I said, what? You know, and he said, basketball. He says, oh, it's not that hard. It's not that much. And so really the Holy Spirit hit me and said, you always said you wanted to give back to the Christians just as well as the world. So now it's the time to work with it. And sure
Mm,
enough, it has been one of my highlight joys. I
mm,
enjoy doing it. It's not that strenuous, and there's the girls are so obedient.
mm.
I mean,
Coaching, mentoring, basketball, softball, track is your bloodline. Bleed blood. You bleed those things, and you are so good at it. Um, One of your uh former girls that you have coached over the years, Miss Valerie Davis, she was a forward, a center, a guard, and she has won many championships with you. And she wants to give you well wishes, said you are a very good person. You taught her well, and she wishes the best for you. Miss Adams, what's next for you?
well, I'm not very good at just sitting back and watching. And I'm always volunteering for something. So
Mhm.
we'll just see. We'll just
Are,
see.
is your competitiveness to being first still in your blood at what you do?
Oh yes. I it's hard for me to play a little simple card game or something and not want to be first.
So
My,
let's
my children, my children are they're just like me though. I see it in all of them.
Miss Adam, who inspires you?
Well, now, who really inspired me coming along was I had a coach that was also my church member, and her name was Corrine Robinson. And she always would tell me that I had to believe in myself and that she knew I could do this or that. And you know, when you really have confidence in somebody and they've won and you've won their trust, whatever they say, you think you could do it. And then Miss Essie Sheffield was one of my coaches. Also, Clyde Williams was one of my coaches, and a dear friend. One thing about Mr. Williams, he was assistant principal at Todd Grant Middle School when I first started. Actually, he was my high school track coach, but then he was an assistant principal at McIntosh High School. And then when he was assistant principal, when they came and got me after the first year, lo and behold, the next year he came over to Glen Academy and he was there with me. So he was actually one who inspired me and also was a mentor to me. And when things got a little tough back in those days, I would always confront him and he would give me sound advice. But Walter McNeely and William Crosby, they are the two that came and got me from McIntosh to help me get my career in coaching started.
Awesome story. What is your favorite scripture, phrase, or testimony to keep you grounded?
Well, well, the Lord is my light and my salvation. Whom shall I fear? The Lord is the strength of my life. Whom shall I be afraid? Everything that I did or do requires not being afraid and to
Mm,
have strength. And if
mm,
I can believe that, I know God is with me at all times. So therefore, I know when I should say, because you have to repeat your scriptures to yourself out loud so you can hear them at some time or another.
mm, mm. What is your advice or wisdom for future girl athletes who want to play sports or would become coaches?
The first thing, you got to be teachable. And a lot of times nowadays, kids aren't teachable because they think they already know everything. But you have to be teachable. You have to have a plan, and you have to be strong to the finish. I
Mm,
say this, that if you do those things, you'll be just fine. But whatever you do, have a plan and make
mm,
it God's plan.
Make it God's plan. Miss Adams, thank you for being one of my uh, persons to spotlight for Black History Month. It has been a wonderful conversation. I crown you the queen of legacy of a lifetime of achievements to Glen Academy's sports. Before we go though, the Super Bowl is tomorrow.
Well, we're going to be an Eagle fan, but
Yes,
mainly because we have a native from Brunswick on the Eagles team,
yes,
Darius Slay.
yes. And that is my native place of born and raised, Philadelphia. Yes. Well, Miss Adams, once again, thank you for accepting my invitation to a conversation. Now I know you and I'll see you around and speak to you soon. But until then, you have a blessed day and a blessed Black History Month.
Thank you. You too.
Bye bye.
Bye.